Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steven. I'm a pharmacist and I own 52 units of real estate. So I had a great question in the comments. Given the fires in Los Angeles, over the past few weeks, given all the natural disasters, depending on what state you invest in, if you do Florida, there's hurricanes, Texas, hurricanes, Oklahoma, where I'm at, there's hailstorms, um, North Carolina, there's hurricanes, California, earthquakes as well. So where do you invest, right? So for me, I just say pick your poison and what are you comfortable with, right? Like for me personally, I don't want to buy in flood zones. I don't want to deal with hurricanes. So for me, I wouldn't buy like in Florida, for example. I don't want to deal with that. I don't know how to deal with that. But I have a student, a mentor, a mentee who invests in Houston, and he's not afraid of hurricanes because he has a roofer that he has in Houston, Texas, that can inspect his roofs, replace it cheap, and he has a system. I don't have a system for hurricanes. So for me, I would avoid areas with hurricanes, but for him, he's okay with hurricanes. He's okay with insurance in Houston, Texas. He has systems in place to mitigate all of that. For me, I don't. So I would stay away. So this is how I invest in real estate and how I choose my markets. So what I do is get the US map and draw a smiley face on the US map. That's called the Sun Belt. Everything below that, I would consider investing in. And for me, I don't want to deal with snow, right? I don't want to deal with snow. I don't want to deal with, scraping snow on the sidewalk. I don't want to deal with pipes that burst and create huge plumbing issues. I don't want to deal with that, right? There's already plumbing issues as is. I don't want to deal with frozen pipes. I don't want to. So for me, that's just a no go. So anything above the Sun Belt, forget it for me. For me, I'd rather be in, Sunbelt states because, it's drier. Maybe there's fires, right? So like for me personally, where I live in Los Angeles, I bought where I bought in San Gabriel Valley because the fires usually don't get here. Like the winds actually fly over, the Santa Ana winds fly over the valley, and the other winds fly over the valley, and they usually hit the mountains. And where the fires happen, they happen around the mountains, right? There's one on Pacific Palisades, which might have been caused by, maybe illegal fireworks. I have no idea. But anyways, I try to avoid areas where the fire doesn't really go. Like for me, I had no power for just 8 hours one day. But there's people who still don't power today, right? Especially if you're close to the fire area. So I potentially, I don't I'm not near the mountains. I stay away. So my investing philosophy would be the same if I were to buy in California, but I'm not because it's hard to cash flow here. But I would buy where there's no fires, specifically in California, because my unfair advantage is I live here, so I know the pockets, I know the areas. So that's an unfair advantage. Um, where I own homes in the Bay Area, there's no fires in that area either. So that's how I try to avoid it. Now earthquakes, well, shoot, we're expecting another big one day, maybe. Hope not. But there is. Well, shoot. You can't predict that. So, I like to invest in the Sun Belt. So I invest in Oklahoma, which is borderline. I mean, sometimes there's snow there. Oklahoma, it's just mostly like ice. They had that polar vortex, I think, at one point. But yeah, we have hail. You're going to deal with um, our insurance is wind and hail. So, it might damage your roof. Your roofs don't last as long. It might damage your windows. It might damage the side of your house. But I haven't experienced anything yet so far, knock on wood. Alabama, where I invest, there's tornadoes. There's Tornado Alley. So, with tornadoes, for the most part, they're highly destructive, but the range is typically a little bit more isolated. So, as long as you're kind of out of the way, um, everything's okay. I remember my mobile home park in Selma, Alabama, got hit Selma got hit over a tornado, but it didn't hit my mobile home park. But I remember it hit like this area where there was like this bank, this area, everything was like devastated in that area, but it was just kind of isolated to that area. At my park, we just had a lot of like debris, branches falling off, so it wasn't too bad. Maybe a power line fell off, and then it was fixed. So it's like you said, pick your poison, right? I'm okay with tornadoes. I'm okay with, I guess, fires, and I just don't want to deal with snow. So I don't want to deal with flood zones. So that's how I personally invest. So that's why I kind of like Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, Missouri, just kind of those areas that I was initially targeting. But now I'm okay with just California, single family homes in California. new construction in Huntsville, Alabama, and apartments in Oklahoma. Like that's just kind of my area and my niche, right? And it works for me. Like I don't want to deal with like hurricanes and like stressing about my properties when there's a hurricane, right? So that's why I don't invest in hurricane areas. I don't invest in flood zones. So like I said, get the U.S. map, draw a smiley face, whatever's underneath. That's how I invest. And usually those states are more cash flow, right? They're less property tax, usually more affordable property tax. They're cheaper to buy apartments. It's more landlord friendly there. Like in Oklahoma, I can evict someone in 14 days for noncompliance, right? Um, Alabama, it's kind of well, Alabama is maybe it's not, it wasn't as landlord friendly as I thought it was, right? It was hard to evict people during COVID, and yeah, I think Alabama was maybe more tenant friendly. But in Huntsville, Alabama, at least you're getting the A class tenants who are more reasonable, and easy to work with, right? They're the typical working professional, a lot of Air Force, a lot of SpaceX, a lot of not SpaceX but Space Force, and a lot of rocket scientists there. So they're A class tenants, so it's easier to deal with, more professional, versus your D class tenants who, maybe they're Section 8, but they could be more difficult to deal with, right? Depending. And there's, I guess, difficult and demanding A class tenants as well. So I guess it goes both ways. But it's just whatever your comfort zone is. And then, buy apartments in Oklahoma where, they're C class apartments. So it's like more workforce housing. It's hit or miss as well in C class. You can have some great ones, you can have some interesting ones. Um, but that's kind of like my approach to picking a market. So to summarize, under the Sun Belt, number one. Number two is low property tax. Number three is landlord friendly. Number four is more of a cash flow market. Number five is I don't want hurricanes. I don't want flood zones, right? And I don't want snow. So that's how I kind of pick my multifamily markets or my real estate markets. It works for me, but I know a lot of people, they do great in snow areas. They do great in Florida. They do great in Texas. So doesn't mean you can do it, but as long as you have your systems and you know what you're getting yourself into, that's what makes the most sense to me. So that's how I kind of pick my markets. And like at this point, I don't want to shiny object syndrome in new markets. I just want to continue to scale my current markets, scale in California, scale in Huntsville, Alabama, scale in Oklahoma, do that for the rest of my life. Eventually, I'll have way more units I know what to do with. And at that point, I could, stop working, or I can stop investing in real estate altogether if I don't want to do it anymore, right? Or start to consolidate where I sell some properties, take the money, pay off other properties. So it's just really the optionality. So anyways, hopefully this answers your question. Hopefully this gave you some value. If you want to buy multifamily real estate with some mentorship, check out my mentorship program down below. Otherwise, please like, comment, subscribe, and I hope to see you next one. Thank you so much.